Hello, everybody. It is John Pollock and Wai Ting, moments after AEW's Revolution pay-per-view from the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, California. How are you tonight, Wai?
Doing all right, John. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. Is that a hole I detect in your cheek?
No. It's not. No.
Okay, that's my opening question. As much as I would love to ask you about your day, we are getting into this pay-per-view right away, everybody. 12,577, according to WrestleTix. A better number than they did at the same arena last year.
Which was what?
11,670. So 8% difference.
Okay.
Tony Khan had stated this would be over $1 million gate. So I think overall, they called it a sellout. So whether that was the configuration or a true sellout, they were above, and this is a perfect market-to-market comparison. Same show, same arena, same market from one year to the next. So they got into the pre-show, and this included Wayne Brady. Wai, did you see any of Zero Hour or no?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Did watch it. Yep.
So Wayne Brady got involved. He was interviewed by Lexi Nair, stating he's a fan of Ricochet, quote, even though he's a heel now, and Swerve. Those are his big favorites. And Wayne Brady was going to get involved. I definitely have to rely on my notes because this was nearly 6 hours ago. We had the Infantry taking on Big Boom AJ and QT Marshall. One of the few AJs left now in pro wrestling with Lee and Big Boom.
There's at least one other. Yeah. Two actually in prominent positions.
I guess you could say that. Yes, you are right.
Francis and Lee.
They had a 7-minute, 40-second match. Christian Exo, who has joined the Infantry over the last month, she got involved with the Rizzler, and all of this led up to Wayne Brady arguing with Shane Taylor, and then Wayne Brady calmly attacking Shane Taylor after he was thrown over. Rizzler gets involved. Big Justice spears Shane Taylor, and then Big Boom AJ hits the high cross to the floor, and a Boomsday device pins Carly Bravo at 7:40 to get the show off and running with the first of, I believe we had 13 matches on this show, and it was the usual Big Boom AJ fare with a cameo from Wayne Brady.
Yeah, they set up Wayne Brady's involvement by in the interview asking him what his finisher would be, and Brady said it would be the bitch slap. Which he performed to
Shane Taylor.
Shane Taylor, thank you. Yeah, and of course a reference to the Chappelle Show skit.
Well, I'm glad that they foretold that for us as well. So Willow Nightingale took on Lena Cross for the TBS Championship, and this kind of went as we had expected it to go. Willow she retained the title, but did not come out of it unscathed as she had a shoulder injury by the end of it. Cross had missed a split-legged moonsault, and Willow countered the jackhammer, winning with a backslide, which they would later use for a near fall later on. Nigel had the advice that Willow should just get herself disqualified, and she could have gotten out of this match a lot earlier than she did, but she's a valiant babyface, defended the title, but would have to go into the tag title match on the pay-per-view wounded.
It went a very substantial length, and by the end of the night, you would understand why. This was essentially Willow's, most of her work for the evening. We had a great look at Lita Cross here, and I think, her presence, of course, is incredible. I think she looks very capable in ring as well. So, I mean, you immediately think she'll be a big star if they give her the right booking.
Yeah, Bane joined in with Lena Cross, double-teaming Willow, so Harley Cameron ran down with a pipe to chase them off. And then to conclude the 0 hour, it was the 21-man Blackjack Battle Royal. And we had, I believe I had the whole list here of Ricochet, Ciampa, Jack Perry, Rush, Dralistico, Shibata, Daniel Garcia, Scorpio Sky, Rocky Romero, Trent Beretta, Austin Gunn, Juice Robinson, AR Fox, Dalton Castle, Anthony Bowens, Leo Rush, Commander, El Clone, Ace Austin, Johnny TV, and Beast Mortos. A lot of bald men in this between Ricochet, the recently balding Johnny TV, and Leo Rush as well.
I would say a lot of bald men in life in general, John.
Yeah, well, maybe they all understand. They want to get a little bit of the rub from this chant, and maybe it'll wear off on them. So in terms of a battle royal, I thought this was one of the better versions because what they did was they wanted to do all the high flying, but they didn't want guys to be eliminated as a result of it. So they started on the floor and never actually entered the ring to start. So they did all the dives at the beginning, and then this just became a car crash with everyone doing all these crazy spots. AR Fox got to do like a year's worth of ideas in his like 4 minutes of focus in this match. So he kind of stood out, and they went over 21 minutes in total for this match. And of course it came down to Jack Perry, who had been driven to the arena by Luchasaurus in a Jurassic Express school bus. And Perry tried this sunset flip to ricochet to the floor, but in doing so, held his feet from touching the floor. And then as they fought on the edge, Perry turned a DVD attempt into a Poison Rana, sending Ricochet to the floor, and Jack Perry wins the national title in 21:55. And they mention attending pro wrestling in this arena with his late father, Luke Perry, and then he went to hug his mother and sister as Ricochet threw a temper tantrum.
Yeah. I mean, the title change did surprise me a little bit, but of course the booking makes sense. By this point, Jack Perry had earned something like at least 2 to 3 title shots against Ricochet. He didn't get them, but instead he ended up winning the title this way anyway. So,
I also thought if you were going to switch the title, this was a lot more exciting of a way than doing another singles match between these two, because I feel like their matches have been fine, but they haven't lit my world on fire to want to see a third one. And I really enjoyed this battle royal for the different people involved. And I did feel it put Jack Perry in a better spot as the winner here than had they just done the match.
Well, honestly, it begs the question, why Jack Perry? Which I think was personally my biggest holdup, and maybe a lot of people's biggest holdups into really getting into the feud. Ricochet feels like he's hot, but I wouldn't say that about Jack Perry. Of course, I did not count on the hometown reaction here, because this crowd certainly made him feel like a bigger deal than I think most of us might currently perceive. That, of course, also doesn't mean they can't do a better job of pushing Jack Perry now that he does have the spotlight in this championship. So, bleeding the show into the pay-per-view like they've done previously, I thought in this case was another very effective strategy, and they kind of rewarded people with the title change as a result of it. So I enjoyed all of that. No, still kind of unsure about Jack Perry in this position versus maybe even a Ricochet, but we'll see what they do with him.
Well, the way they come out of this is that you do have babyface trios champions, and certainly the demand could be in that scene as well coming out of this. And for Jack Perry, as long as they keep booking Revolution in this arena every year, I mean, he has something to do once a year.
That he does, yeah.
And then he can drop this belt in like a month.
The idea, yeah. Do you think WWE will do something similar, like to cliffhang, their ESPN pre-show into WrestleMania this year?
I would certainly consider it for at least one of the nights.
Because I personally feel like it's been the most effective way to bridge a pre-show into a pay-per-view that any wrestling company has done.
Yeah, I mean, WWE tends to do their kickoff where they will announce what the first match is that's coming up. Like, that's the conservative way to do it. I would try this. I think it's been pretty effective, and the fact AEW has continued to do this, and tonight was not even a show that was on TBS or TNT. It was just on online and on their own social channels. But clearly the fact they've done it so many times, it would tell me like they see it as effective.
Yeah.
So we go on to the pay-per-view, and opening things up, FTR and the Young Bucks, and we get this video package for the Young Bucks voiced by their children talking about their dads. I mean, could you hope, one day that you could get a video package like this?
I'm okay without it, but sure, I'm sure this was nice and heartwarming.
Yeah. I wonder how much counseling you and I would be forced to undergo if you and I got together and our kids made us a package like this, and you and I said, let's give our children a bloodbath. That will be our thank you to them for coming to sit front row and see what Dad does.
I imagine they've seen plenty of AEW pay-per-views in their young lives already, and therefore, I don't think they were.
There is no way some of these kids made it to the end of this show. There is no way.
Well, in LA, it's not really that late yet.
Have you ever tried to? You go try and take Oscar to a 5-hour event. You tell me how that goes.
It's true. Yeah.
So. They come out, and we get pretty much the amplified version of that Shane McMahon entrance at WrestleMania, where the Bucks come out with all of their kids. One of them did like a whole handspring routine. This kid's already going to get himself booked on another pay-per-view. So Then it turns to FTR, and this crowd hates FTR. They're out in the Boston Celtics colors, tons of heat. Dax is getting in the face of the parents. The whole family is in the front row. I mean, Mark Shapiro would just cringe at the amount of value left on the table. You know how many front row seats they gave up for this? Like 8 of them here.
You know what? Maybe they made them pay for it.
So we get right into things with a spike pile driver on Matt, and he is already selling the neck and shoulder, which is taped up. Nick gets busted open in record time after being caught on a dive and being driven onto the desk face first. And then Dax is sent into the post. He's bleeding. And so we have a ton of blood 5 minutes into this match. There was a missile dropkick senton combo by Nick Jackson, which Excalibur mentioned was a move popularized by Super Dragon, which would not be the only Super Dragon tribute on this show. And then Matt is selling, and his son gives him a pep talk. Go get him, champ. And Matt fires up for his son, and they do the double sharpshooters. Then we get into double team suplexes to FTR from the apron to the floor, but Matt couldn't get Dax all the way over, citing the neck damage. And then we get the super kick firing squad, and Stokely rises to try and interrupt the Meltzer driver, and this leads to a near fall from the shatter machine. They spike Nick on the head, but then his foot gets on the rope, even though Rick Knox hit the mat 3 times, so they do that near fall. And we get super kicks, an FTR trigger, and Nick kicks out at 1. Huge pop for the 1 count kick out. Shatter machine is delivered to Dax, followed by the BTE trigger, and again they kick out. This crowd is going nuts. Nick dives onto Stokely on the wheelchair, and Cash wipes out on the dive. Meltzer driver is hit, and Dax gets the shoulder up, and it ends with a spike pile driver to Matt, and then an avalanche shatter machine onto Nick as FTR retain the titles in 18 minutes and 50 seconds in what I thought was a phenomenal match between these two. I would venture to guess. My belief at the end of this was the best tag match that these two teams have had with each other, and I thought this is like match of the year contender easily by the end of this. I just thought this was killer.
Was this your match of the night?
By the end of it, I think it was.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, I would not doubt you, because I thought there were like several contenders. You could have said that about this particular show.
We'll see as we go through the card, but my reaction at the end of this was like this was one of like the better AEW matches. I feel like it was in that echelon for me.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely amazing, and I did not expect how quickly they would ramp up the intensity in the match. I mean, they gave us double color very early on here, and I thought it effectively established a very high pace of like exhaustion and near falls that are usually reserved for the closing moments of the match. So instead, you had the feeling and pace of like, a close of a match, but instead for 75% of this match, I mean, this crowd was so hot, especially at the start of the show, and they were reacting like it was the finish for like 10 minutes. So that was incredibly outstanding. I love the spots with Malachi. We did not get Malachi Jack's misting, but we did get some water.
He did throw a drink into the face of Dax. That was his comeuppance for it. That was his revenge. So.
Enough, for Malachi. I thought Stokely was excellent with some of his facial reactions here. And that tope suicida into him in the wheelchair, I thought was awesome as well. So really strong match. Like when they announced this, I was like, I didn't know if I had enough time separated from like the other Bucks and FTR matches, but I mean, these are always of such high quality, and I felt this one was different enough to be a worthwhile addition to the catalog. This one, especially compared to maybe previous, with very effective baby facing of the Bucks here through the hometown advantage, of course, and also usage of blood here.
Yeah, I just thought this was tremendous. Like just an outstanding match starting off the pay-per-view. And as FTR are with the belts, the screen reads revenge. And out comes Adam Copeland, followed by Christian Cage. And Christian comes from behind FTR, sprays Cash in the face with something, and hits Dax with a kill switch, followed by the spear from Copeland, and then a kill switch onto Stokely. And they grab the tag belts, and they state they're going to take these, and then the Young Bucks appear. And Copeland and Cage have a bit of a face-off with the Young Bucks, but they're at least appearing on the same page, and it looks as though FTR against Copeland and Cage is the direction. I think everyone knew that, most likely for Dynasty. The only question was, would the tag titles be involved? And this would be a yes. And I spent way too much time trying to figure out Copeland's shirt that reads Cope Cage, and then the bottom cage is crossed out with Cage on top.
Yeah, in spray paint letters. Yeah.
Okay.
So arguing about whose name is first. I mean, I get it. I think it makes for a terrible T-shirt though.
Okay.
Or at least the design was not very good. But whatever. It's
wouldn't Christian be wearing this and not Copeland if he's arguing about the lettering? I mean,
maybe this is the only shirt that they were they had and that they were able to make. But I personally felt like the booking of this might have been a little bit of a risk, like essentially having these hometown favorites lose and then having two part-timers suddenly come back in to basically like demand applause, after like the hometown group has lost. But I mean, this crowd certainly reacted well to
lost their mind for
Christian and Cage. Yeah. And of course they also, were wise enough to give us a little bit of a teaser of a Cope and Christian. Sorry, is that their name? Yeah. Cope and Cage. Cage and Cope.
Cage and Cope.
Cage and Cope versus
Cope.
Cage Cope versus Bucks match in the future as well. So, I mean, it might, kind of telegraph an FTR loss to Cope and Christian. But even without titles on the line, I mean, you're talking about what would be a dream match here between Edge and Christian versus the Bucks. So
I think these two are winning the belts in Canada, and I can certainly see these two against the Bucks at a Double or Nothing, or you could even hold that off till later, like that. Mm-hmm. That would certainly be something of significance for like an all-in if you wanted to hold it off that long. But I think it was inevitable from the time that you knew these two were going to reunite and have that one last tag title run. And I think it's only a question of when they pull the trigger on that. Marina Shafir against Timeless Toni Storm followed. So I thought this was one of Marina Shafir's better singles matches because she just kicked the shit out of Toni Storm for 90% of this match. Like, Tony's like chest was just red from these kicks, and she just lights her up. Marina Shafir also she is gaining so much more just personality, where she's taunting the crowd and she's really playing things up instead of being this stoic figure. She did the Randy Couture spot with Tito Ortiz, where she had her bent over and started slapping her ass. Clearly a callback to September 2003. This front kick just drops Toni Storm like a gunshot had gone off. Nigel compares this to if two eras were meeting, and compared this to Judy Grable facing Kris Cyborg, which is a generational contest I had never once pondered in my life, but Nigel has clearly been giving it a lot of thought. The kicks continue, and then Toni bites her foot as Nigel cites going back to her apartment fighting days. And we see these Germans by Storm. She hits 3 consecutive hip attacks in the Storm Zero, but Marina kicks out. And she catches Storm with mother's milk. And then Toni goes to the eyes and bites her right in the tit, hits a headbutt and the deep package in 950, catching Marina Shafir for the victory. And as Toni is celebrating, Ronda Rousey appears in the ring, points towards Timeless Toni Storm. They mentioned the Gina Carano fight coming up, and Storm comes back, and they do the whole procession of security and refs jumping into the ring. This, by the way, is the exact scene I said they should do for Lesnar and Obafemi when Obafemi answers that challenge. Like, same kind of idea where they just want to separate these two. Now, there were a lot of boos for Ronda Rousey, which I don't even think is the worst thing imaginable here.
She's a heel. Of course, it's great. What's wrong?
Well, there was a lot of negativity I saw online of people seeing Ronda Rousey here. And to me, I was like, this is a giant match for them. Like, this to me is like watching this angle. It's like, this is all in. I don't think they're going to do it any smaller than that. And this is a program for Toni Storm. Like, this is, I think this caught a lot of people off guard that they got Ronda, and the idea that she would even want to do any more pro wrestling at this point. Like, it does tell you, like, she is certainly invigorated.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, you could see with the way she's promoting this Carano fight, she feels, I would say, more invested and more inspired to, like, be out in the world talking to the media than she ever has before. And as part of her media tour, a brief stint or at least appearance at an AEW wrestling show, I think is brilliant promotion for her to try to appeal to some of that wrestling fan base. I think like she. First of all, I want to talk about the match. I thought this match was great. Probably the best singles match I've ever seen Marina Shafir in, and I personally was really happy to see that she's completely honed in on what makes the gimmick work, which in my opinion is stiff-looking offense, good judo throws, and I would say just a strong overall ferocity that I think has been like in there in her outings with the Death Riders, but slightly watered down in her actual matches. Like one of the criticisms I've had about some of her singles matches is like she tried to fit in a lot more sort of like flashy personality driven stuff, like doing the waltz with the limp opponent, which I wasn't really that much of a fan of. That awful 619 head scissors, which she did not even attempt at all in this match, thankfully. So she looked great, just sticking more to like a shoot style type of like Mox like level of intensity in her wrestling, and I thought it brought about a very serious Toni Storm as well, because like this was more of the one of the more one-sided beatings I think we've seen Toni Storm in, and it invited this very great comeback from Storm where she also had to hit hard to fight back. So great outing for the both of them. And I thought like the Ronda thing, you know, like she, in all of her interviews right now, she is one of the more outspoken critics and I would say opponents of TKO. You know, one of the bigger problems for TKO in and of itself. And of course, you kind of couple that with many of her criticisms of her time in the WWE as well. So her showing up for the competition with AEW here, I think makes a whole lot of sense. Not to mention, of course, the attachment to Marina Shafir, who herself is, you know, become a star in this company lately. So they continue to like announce her as what, like an affiliate of the Death Riders. So it certainly, you know, indicates a further involvement from her in AEW. And of course, it helps her get the word out about this Gina fight as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good promotion. It's also like this fight with Gina Carano, like it's going to be pretty big in May. Like they've moved over 12,000 tickets for this show already. It's like this is going to have some like she's doing them as much a favor as vice versa here.
It's a lot of mutual benefit, and again, having the Marina attachment to Ronda, which, you know, obviously is very legitimate, like makes it feel not shoehorned and a very natural thing, you know.
I certainly cannot see her doing any wrestling before this fight.
Of course,
like, there is just so much invested in Ronda. Like any type of injury, like that would be catastrophic for that show. But after the fact, like to me, that this should be all in, and maybe you do a tag match, but it seems like Ronda Toni Storm is the big match to build towards, and doing that at Wembley, like that is the kind of match you want to have at Wembley. And I
totally agree. Like I would go. So I haven't seen any of the online reaction. Of course, I can understand it because Ronda did not have the greatest run in the WWE whatsoever. And I would say kind of left on a bit of a sour note where people didn't really care about her, and probably, you know, there was not much craving to see her back in wrestling. But I think her here coming in as a heel, number one, like again, like plays to that really well. Number two, we've never seen Toni Storm with, to me, the level of crossover star of a Ronda Rousey. To me, somebody who still thinks Ronda has that aura about her, like this was a bit of an Austin Tyson type of like moment for Toni Storm.
Oh, they wanted to convey that after, like with the security running in and keeping them apart from one another. I mean, that's what they wanted to certainly convey to you and get from that crowd. And yeah, this was one of many surprises, returns that they had on the show, and it was like they just stacked these like after every match for the first like 3/4 of the show. There was like an add-on at the end of every match. So this was certainly one of the big stories. And whether like Ronda shows up at any of the TVs in the US coming up, there's like if she appears on like a Dynasty and a non-wrestling role in Canada, or ultimately wrestling in England, you've got a lot of geographical options, and that's the same benefit that NordVPN provides all of you.
Support for this podcast comes from NordVPN. As wrestling companies rake in record profits, it seems many fans are growing frustrated with rising ticket prices and the need to juggle multiple streaming services just to follow weekly shows and premium live events. Luckily for Canadians, I'm based in a spot where one streaming service covers almost everything under one fee. But what if I'm off traveling in the US for a few weeks? So here's what I do. I launch NordVPN right on my phone, laptop, or Apple TV, change my settings to point back to Canada, sign into my service, and I'm streaming everything like I do back home. It literally takes seconds. No cables or complicated setup required. On top of that, Nord encrypts your whole connection so your IP and location info stays hidden, especially if you're skeptical about a sketchy Wi-Fi network at your hotel or vacation rental. So head over to nordvpn.com/postwrestling to get our exclusive 2-year plan deal with a massive discount and 4 bonus months thrown in. No risk thanks to their 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/postwrestling. Stay safe, save money, and enjoy all the benefits of a secure internet with Nord.
Excellent. Well done, John, as always.
Thank you very much. Jon Moxley and Konosuke Takeshita followed that. No time limit for the Continental Championship. So we see early on Takeshita's ankle and knee are attacked by Moxley, and Takeshita would sell this throughout the whole rest of the match. Moxley unloads on him with strikes and headbutts, causing Takeshita to bleed, and Moxley goes to a crossface, and then Takeshita bites Moxley's forehead and hits an exploder off the top, hits the power drive knee, Moxley kicks out, and we get a series of suplexes back and forth. Each one keeps popping up, and then Moxley hits a lariat, and Takeshita kicks out at 1. I know a lot of people are, especially on this show, I think there were like 3 of these 1-count kickouts, and some people tire of them, but it's like this spot just about always works, and I know you can overdo it, but call me guilty of, like, when it's timed right, I love that 1-count kick out. And I think it generally works. And yeah, it was used 3 times on this show, and it got a massive reaction for all 3 times on this show.
I don't necessarily think this is the type of show you would criticize for not being conservative. Like this is like I would criticize the blood more, before I criticize the 1 kick out, which I do not criticize.
How much blood did we have on this show? We had the opener with like Dax and Nick. We had Takeshita here, obviously the main event. Was there any more?
You say that like that's not that much. I mean,
no, I'm not. I know that's 5 people right there, but yeah. There were a lot of matches on this show.
But I'm not criticizing that, and this is not the type of product that at this point that I feel like is, like they're here to perform to the best of their abilities and not hold back on pay-per-view, especially.
It's not just perform to the best of their abilities way. I feel like every month now we have to go out there and put together at least something in the conversation of the best show that someone has ever seen.
Yep.
And that's a nearly impossible goal, but that is what these shows are now designed to be. And there's going to be excess because that's kind of what the audience wants. And 12,000 people paid to see this show.
They're kind of building their name and brand recognition off of complete customer satisfaction, and often that might come in the form of excess. Yes.
So there's a raging fire after the 1-count kick out, and Moxley becomes the first person in AEW to kick out of the raging fire, and they make a big deal out of that. So Takeshita then sets up for another power drive knee, but the knee gives out. Awesome spot. He's hit with the Death Rider, and Takeshita kicks out of the Death Rider. Crowd just wildly applauding this. So another thing we learned tonight, if your move doesn't work, go higher, and we get the elevated Death Rider. But again, Takeshita kicks out. Crowd roars at this, and then he puts Takeshita in the choke. Takeshita's giving him the middle finger as he fights the choke, and the arm gets trapped by Moxley's leg, and Takeshita goes to sleep in 23 minutes and 25 seconds. You pretty much knew this one had to go past 20 minutes to justify the no time limit, but a great finish here. And the Death Riders appear. They are all applauding, and Moxley offers his hand. Takeshita refuses it, but then thinks twice, returns, and accepts the handshake from Jon Moxley. Now, we will get to everything afterwards, but first the match way.
So I actually like this match even more than the Bucks match. Like, to me, my immediate thoughts about this one was that this was a match of the year contender. I thought it was beautiful.
These both were.
Yeah, like these two have wrestled several times before, but I thought this was the longest and most substantial that these two have had in the time that Takeshita's rank has equaled Mox's. And to say it lived up to expectations, I feel would almost be an understatement, because I thought they greatly improved over their time limit draw in Australia, even without, that finish being what it was. I thought every second of the match was compelling. To me, it was interesting here seeing Mox, who's been playing babyface throughout this entire Continental title run. He very effectively reverted back to being a heel just for this match, and at least competitively he was as vicious and as bloodthirsty as ever. And I mean, this was one of those examples where like blood is that shows how effective of a tool blood is in helping somebody gain sympathy. Not that Takeshita needed it a whole lot, but they also needed to get to a level where this felt like a dirty fight on behalf of Mox, and Takeshita had to kind of like dig up through the trenches in order to come back, and I thought that was very effectively conveyed. To me, Mox continues to look like a wrestler who's very much in his prime, if not somebody who keeps improving. And I thought that 2.99 kick out of the Raging Fire was one of the better time kickouts I've seen in a long time. They gave you everything in this one. Kickouts for both of their like ultra finishers, and so much credit to LA for continuing to provide like an incredible soundtrack for so many of these earlier matches that really felt worthy, for the wrestling that they were being shown.
And then we go to a video package where Steve Rogers is being injected with some kind of experiment here, and it is Will Ospreay has been brought back to life. This is a really new experimental neck specialist that he was seeing here, where he's got like the oxygen mask. He rips it off and he powers out of the lab, roaring. And we cut to the Death Riders who are reacting to this. I mean, was I that far off, Way?
Oh, no. Yeah.
Moxley is just like shaking his head. He's like, okay, whatever. And then Will Ospreay's music plays, and out comes Ospreay, who looks pretty jacked here, coming back, and he just charges at Jon Moxley. And I mean, you got whiplash going from Moxley like shaking the hand of Takeshita, being the honorable champion, to now he's back as the despicable leader of the Death Riders that left this man for dead last year. So Ospreay came out, and this dude was like watching a video game, because he charges at Moxley. The other Death Riders are in. He does a handspring backflip, hitting both of them with kicks, and then a sky twister press to the floor, taking out all the members. This was fucking Tekken shit here with Will Ospreay, and points to the scar on his neck as he stares at Jon Moxley. Huge reception. And I don't think it was a coincidence that they got Ospreay out here the week that All In tickets are going on sale.
Oh, God. Absolutely. Yeah. Notice how he got a bit of new ink here, too, including what I'm assuming is something that covered up the All In attendance number.
Did he cover? You're right. Yeah, he got a sleeve here. If he covered up that, like, the attendance was not wrong that he got on there. I mean, he just got confused by the turnstile count, but regardless.
Well, it looks great either way.
Looking very Steve Rogers-ish, isn't he? A little bit.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, time off in a neck injury can evidently do that for somebody. But
this is crazy, by the way. Like, he had this
nuts.
surgery in September, and I mean, he was like physically doing stuff here, and I think like this answered your questions. Like this dude ain't missing Wembley, and it looks like he's not missing anything.
Oh, it seems like he might be back like as soon as this week. Like he certainly looked healthy enough. But like I mean, 6 months, okay, from like the reported time of surgery till now, which is all like
that is very.
But it also depends on the type of surgery, right? I think often in wrestling, when we think of surgeries, we think of neck fusion, which is a year, right? Or in most cases. I'm assuming he did not get neck fusion and got maybe another type of procedure that where this sort of timeline was possible. But of course, like the history of wrestling neck injuries requiring this length of time certainly resulted in helped what I'm sure was like a very lengthy rehab process that this man worked incredibly hard in as well. Of course, that probably sped up the timeline. But like our expectations were certainly not March and probably more closer to Wembley itself.
Yeah, I mean it's great for them that he's back, and hopefully it's not a rush coming back. Like I feel like if it was a case like he did not have to come back this early. I mean, as long as you were able to build this guy up for the summer, you'd be good. But I think this was very much strategic of, if once we know he's there and the tickets go on sale this week, like you're not outright promoting this guy for Wembley, but
you are.
This was as
actually.
much as a wink and a nod that, hey, you buy your tickets at Wembley, you're getting the big Ospreay.
They actually have been outright promoting him, like for all of these all in, on sales. Like not necessarily just saying he'll be there, but like all the Ospreay promos talking about his comeback have been leading to some sort of all in tie-in. So I have no doubt he feels incredible pressure that this entire show is sort of hinged on his selling feature, like his marquee value. And I mean, this show would do well even without him, but I'm sure he himself, selfishly like looks at this as the biggest show of his life.
Renee is in the trainer's room where Willow is having her left shoulder taped up, and it was kind of hard to go from like Will Ospreay's comeback to can Willow get through with a banged up shoulder? And she said she's ready to wrestle. You could tell she was apprehensive, but she can't let Harley Cameron down. So the Babes of Wrath defend against Megan Bayne and Lena Cross, and they kept this one pretty short.
They are now known as Divine Dominion.
So we go from Mega Bad to Divine Dominion.
Yep.
Okay. So Megan Bayne did the Phoenix Plex to Harley Cameron, which is quite the move to be delivering. Willow hits Bayne with the pound. She's selling her shoulder. Cameron comes in and is taken out with a German running boot combo, and Willow tries to backslide on Lena Cross, where she won earlier with, but it's only a 2 count. Bayne hits a flying clothesline, and they hit the Divine, what?
The Divine Dominion.
The Divine Dominion hit their double choke slam and pin Willow Nightingale in 5 minutes. Shortest match on the show and new tag champions.
I mean, for a title match, like this was essentially a squash, which I really like. You rarely see on AEW pay-per-view, but given the way this was all booked, I actually really liked it and thought it was a very creative way to get to this point. I was thinking Willow would have had the first match on 0 Hour and then a match later on this show. Instead, this was like pretty like closer to the first half of this pay-per-view. But it effectively helped you like feel a bit more sympathy for Willow, and also kind of justifies the quick loss a little bit better because she didn't have that much time to recover. So crowd reactions were certainly flat for this one. But I think, first of all, they either could have been coming down from the Takeshita Mox match, but this was also the type of flat finish that I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. The mood here should be somber. It should be depressing, not celebratory whatsoever. And I feel like it was ultimately good, simple storytelling that to be protected Willow and Harley in the loss, while creating a new dominant set of tag team champions that your entire division can now go and chase. Of course, it also sets up like potential tension between Willow and Harley. Harley like has justified reason for blaming Willow for taking on too much, when they should have just focused on this tag team match instead. And I gotta say, like, it really sucks for Penelope Ford. I'm sure, like, it was hard for her to watch all of this. I imagine she might have been in this position, but it's undeniable that this is the more marketable version of that team.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was time to flip the titles. I think that these two, it's a fresh coat of paint for the tag champions. I thought you got what you could out of Willow and Harley Cameron. They can go their separate ways here, and I'm interested to see like Megan Bayne just had this great match in CMLL a week ago with Olympia, and I think like she has made a lot of improvements, so I think she is ready for this role. And Lena Cross has come in and she's looked good so far, so this will be really the spotlight will be on her for this tag run.
So we're talking like 5 matches on this pay-per-view so far, and all 5 have either featured a title change or a surprise appearance of some sort. That's like a crazy pace, And
they want to have a lot of news on coming out of this show, and coming out of it, it's like like matches they're building towards, surprises, returns, like appearances, like you had a good sense of like one of the big elements that I think is helping AEW a lot right now is not that you can see where everything's coming, but this has the feeling of a program that it feels to me like Tony Khan has months booked out. Like I feel I don't know if he's got his all-in card, but I feel he's penciled in like his key stuff that he is going towards. Yeah. And it's very evident watching the shows that stuff is building towards things, and it's not a case of we're just trying to like remember last year when we were talking about this a lot, where it just felt as though we're just trying to get to next week and then the next week, and there would be stuff that would get dropped or stuff that just kind of felt like it was out of left field. And then it was around the Owen tournament that you could see they were building towards something. And I've got that same feel now that they kind of have their ducks in a row. They're signing every single person under the sun. They have that as well. So there's a lot of
has it felt bloated though? I wouldn't say so. I think like, the people that they want to feature are getting the right airtime, and at least on this show, like every match had a story that I think we understood.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's been a case of that. Like you have your featured performers and like you've got like your tiered system, but it's and we'll get into another signing later. But first it is Swerve Strickland and Brody King. This is when Nigel pops out and Danielson is on commentary for the second half. I think this man is going to have trauma from not calling the first half of the pay-per-view as opposed to coming on for the last half, because I feel that I don't know if Nigel would have been volunteering to call that match either, but Danielson felt like the man was like traumatized from that main event that we'll get into later.
He sounded like it, but he himself has bled plenty in his career,
Yes. Well, Danielson joins commentary. He reminds us that this match, it's not a no DQ match. It's like, okay, it is not a no DQ match, but they would be having plenty of liberty with the rules here. So right away, Brody tries for a cannonball, and it's cut off by a house call, and Brody lawn darts him into the post, and there were definitely some fuck ice chants here, and ones later, the Don Callis chant has now become a de facto ice chant as well.
And we should correct ourselves. They were present on Wednesday as well. John and I just didn't happen to pick up on it in our particular viewing. Like I watched back the Brody appearance. I felt they were like relatively brief for that one, just because they were. I mean, his appearance was so brief. But the Don Callis family chants are certainly prevalent throughout the entire show, and they're almost always followed by "Fuck Ice 2" chants as well.
So there is a. Swerve exposes the concrete on the floor, and there's a swinging side slam, as they note that the referee is being very lenient here in this straight up.
They really should have just called this no count out at the very least if they had to, do all of this other stuff.
I mean, I kind of take all of these matches as just technically that tag title opener was just a straight wrestling match too. It's I think the fans are more than willing to give the creative liberty here. The cannonball is delivered to Swerve with the buckle exposed. Swerve then sends King into the barricade and hits the vertebreaker onto the exposed portion of the floor, with them noting that this is the move that took Kenny Omega out, albeit on the desk. And King gets up at the count of 9 into the ring, right into a Swerve stomp, and Brody kicks out at 1, and the place goes nuts. And Brody won't go down. He roars as he takes these house calls, and after a third one, stays down. 14 minutes and 50 seconds. I really liked the booking of this. It was just, I thought Brody, it was like he went down in like this blaze of glory, and Swerve it's very clear. Like at the end of this, 100% we're going to Swerve and Kenny Omega, and Swerve needed to win this match. And they also they kept it at 15 minutes, and I thought that was a reasonable time here. Like they didn't overstay their welcome either. And then you got the latest return after the match. But how did you feel this one lived up to? 'Cause this one was tough because the violence was the whole thing that they pushed this with, and on a show booked like this, they did violent things in this match, but they couldn't go to the lengths that maybe some of fans expected for this match.
Yeah, I felt like that played into perhaps my feeling about the match, in that I thought it was a good match, not necessarily one you would talk about as one of the best on the show, but I have respect for it because it was so hard to pull off, with each man having to prove to the other that they're the most dangerous man in wrestling, but having to do it within the confines of a match with no stipulations on the same card as Texas Death. They didn't even have blood in this match. So I think all of that is really difficult, but I do appreciate the creative ways they found to try to tell those stories using, things that are technically legal in a match, I suppose. Like you can ram somebody's head into an exposed turnbuckle and not get disqualified. You could pull the mats off of, the concrete and drop somebody onto it. That's all legal. The countouts, they explained with a bit of leniency, and that's perfectly fine. But I the most important thing to me about the match was whether or not Swerve could continue to convey just this sort of could he convince the audience that he is the most dangerous man in pro wrestling? And I thought he was very convincing here in playing this sort of menacing sadist, and I thought he continued to show a very good renewed dangerous side of him under this heel persona. King is great. The crowd loves him, but to me, like, there was a level of ferocity that didn't come across as strong as it did with Swerve. And, you know, I think back to like when all those fuck eyes chants like broke, how like I got caught up into it. And at one point, like I was wanting King to be in the main event of, if not this show, then one of these other shows. Yeah, it would have been this one. But I think like this many weeks into it, he's still incredibly hot, I would say. But I credit Tony for sticking to his plans and sticking to his long-term visions, whatever they may be, for the people that are involved. That includes Swerve Strickland being positioned as a heel over somebody as strong as Brody King in LA. To me, it felt like the right call, you know, in the moment. So enjoyable part of the show, but not necessarily a show stealer, but effective in, you know, pushing Swerve as your next top or close to top heel.
Prince Nana pulled out a cinder block, and they placed Brody's head on top of it when Kenny Omega raced out to save Brody King, chasing off Swerve, and made it to the pay-per-view after having his appearances in Japan. So he's back, and yeah, you would think all the sense in the world that Dynasty would be Swerve and Omega.
You would think so, yeah. Canada, it's a big match for Kenny, yeah. And like before people might like criticize Kenny for being able to get here but not wrestling on the show, I mean, I think we should understand for him at this stage in his life and career, prep probably requires a whole lot more. Not to mention like potential travel delays that might have impacted everything. So completely understandable why he would not.
And you want to have some matches for next month too to build towards. Like I didn't feel like
the show certainly was not missing
with
Kenny.
Not doing Swerve and Kenny on this show at all.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 falls. I thought this was in a tough spot and a tough stipulation to do at this point in the show. Thekla and Kris Statlander for the Women's Championship. There was a video with Thekla for her introduction that she is taking Chris's sanity tonight. And the one thing is, like, they taped that angle on, it would have been on Wednesday, but it aired last night. Pretty much the Tommy Dreamer angle where Kris just gave her back to Thekla to whip over and over. But her back was completely fine all these days later, even though it aired last night. But unfortunately, some markings that they can't stand the test of time. But it was brought up here with the lashings. So Statlander stops a spear, and Thekla takes off her belt, and Paul Turner stops it. This is not going to be a lenient referee. And she goes for the O'Connor roll. Thekla grabs the rope for leverage and gets the first fall. The second fall, Kris is pissed, so she's coming at her a lot more aggressively. Thekla rolls to the floor, Kris rolls to the floor, and Thekla lands a high cross. Kris tries to roll through, and Thekla runs into the barricade. Kris eats her chops, and she's not stepping back from her, and she hit this gigantic chop to Thekla that just reverberated throughout this building. And Thekla applies the octopus submission, but Statlander turns it into the Sunday Night Fever, evening it at one fall apiece. Going to the third fall as Thekla gouges the eye, runs Statlander into Paul Turner, and then Thekla takes off Paul Turner's belt and Kris takes the belt away, and she gets her revenge, whipping Thekla. She hits the Sunday Night Fever. Turner is still down, so the Sisters of Sin run down, and Statlander barely breaks a sweat, whipping them and fighting those two off. Turner catches Statlander with the belt, yanks it away, and this causes Statlander to be speared and hit with 2 stomps. Thekla retains, 2 falls to 1. All told, this went about 17 and a half minutes.
I thought it was a good match, well worked, and to me, they managed to make all 3 falls feel believable and compelling. While I think like Statlander continues to be having issues finding what her character is supposed to be, even after losing the championship, I think what she does well continues to showcase itself here, and that's like the in-ring quality. Very strong performance, I thought, from her here. It was hard-hitting. I thought booking required shenanigans for certainly the heel wins, but I mean, I even felt those were justified in building heat or at least giving us believable falls early.
Yeah, I thought the match was fine. Certainly not like the standout on the show. They tried to give Statlander something here by noting Thekla had only been pinned twice since coming to AEW, so Statlander got a pin on her, and it's probably going to be a feud that they revisit down the road, but it would seem that Thekla goes a different direction now after this.
Yeah, I think honestly, I was kind of ready to move on, but like this, you know, having a confirmation of her status as champion, effective.
What about 3 out of 5 falls on Collision next week?
Sign me up. How about like 7 out of whatever, 7 out of however many would that math works out. I think my bigger question is where Statlander goes from here. You know, like has she been waiting for like this Thekla feud to be over before like giving us maybe what the real direction for her character is, or are we just continuing to get the sort of like chameleon type of thing she's been doing?
Maybe they revisit something with her, Willow, and Harley Cameron now that they're no longer tag champions. Like if there's some kind of a dissension among Harley and Willow, if Statlander gets involved there somehow, I could see them being at least semi-attached coming out of this, because I don't have any obvious ideas for Statlander after this. Trios title match, Okada, Fletcher, and Mark Davis against Místico, Kevin Knight, and Speedball Mike Bailey. And Triller gave me the greatest commercial possible for my AEW by crashing, and we missed Místico's entrance.
Yeah, really. I mean, better than like having this crap out during a match. But I mean, this might have been the best entrance on the entire show, and we missed it. I heard that there were some issues with HBO as well.
Oh, really?
At least to start. But you know, yeah.
Other than that was the only hiccup I had on my Triller feed for the show. But unfortunate missing this entrance. Knight and Bailey are wearing Místico masks as well. Davis would remove them. And Bryan Danielson is like, he's removed them, but I think that could really help their vision. It's like, yes, Danielson.
Danielson really killed the gimmick here because like
these are a disadvantage. It's really hard to see in those.
Yeah, he's actually helping them by taking the mask off. So I mean, certainly took the bite out of like the gimmick.
Maybe Danielson could go coach those luchadors in Mexico. Like, you guys should be like taking these off. They're really tough to see. So the champions take turns triple teaming different members. Místico had like a hit and miss kind of night. He was like kind of loose on a bunch of his stuff. He went for this top rope head scissors, and God bless Kyle Fletcher, who just flipped here when Místico had no grip on this guy with his feet at all. Knight bit Okada's middle finger, and JetSpeed both avoid the Rainmaker Brainbuster combo by Proto Okada. And we see a tilt-a-whirl DDT by Místico onto Fletcher, and Fletcher just sits up taking it and has this vacant stare into the abyss, selling this thing. Místico went for a Canadian Destroyer to Fletcher on the edge. Again, didn't get all of him there. And Davis uses a chair to distract. Kyle then brings in a belt to use and is stopped with Knight's DDT. There's an Ultima weapon. Save is made. And then, after Davis hits deadlift pile drivers to both members of JetSpeed, Místico saves La Mística onto Fletcher as Knight leaps over both of them for a UFO onto Davis, pinning him at 17 minutes and 10 seconds. So, overall, this was a lot of great action. There were some hiccups with Místico, but he was so popular to this crowd. And one thing, like, I am sure people will have their thoughts on the length of these shows and stuff, but man, this LA crowd, like, they were into most of this show. And this would follow with Andrade and Bandido next. Like, we were late into the show and we still had a lot to go. And I did not sense a crowd that was, looking at their watches.
No, at this stage, I feel like if you're going to an AEW show, you're kind of prepping. Like, certainly, I don't know about you, John, but I do. Like, I was on my third coffee for the day, and that's because I know it was an AEW show night. So I imagine a lot of people were probably prepping as well. If you're also delivering quality of this level, it's easy to react well to it. I don't discount like a little bit of like sloppiness here and there, but like people were here for to see Místico almost. Like, he was the total star coming out of this match, and I almost felt like JetSpeed were right there with him. To me, a match like this, without Paige attached to it, I mean, Místico is a huge star, don't get me wrong, but JetSpeed also felt like they were big stars in this match. And I think like the past month, even though they weren't the most active like trios champions with Paige, simply being attached to the story, coupled with some like incredible singles matches from Knight and Bailey, has made JetSpeed themselves feel really hot. And they're able to me, like, feel like, worthy parts, certainly more than worthy parts of the equation here, teaming up with Místico. In fact, maybe even giving Místico a bit of a boost to an AEW fan base, by being a part of this team. So I think it's wonderful booking, like not the obvious choice, but to pair Místico with this team, I think is great. I'm certainly a little bit disappointed that we're not going to see this Okada, Davis, and Fletcher team anymore, but this is a very worthy, replacement. And like we said, John, this was effectively like you're trading Page for Místico here, with your tag team or your trios division, and I'm not really mad at that. They gave you big teases here of like a future, to me, Okada Místico match, which I feel is a very worthy match to put on something like a Forbidden Door or maybe even Grand Slam
Mexico.
Yeah. And
which is probably not too far away. Like they did that in June last year. Like that would be big. They've still got to do eventually an Okada Knight match because Knight did beat him in the Continental Classic, and I
sure.
They're not booking a win like that with no kind of idea in the future for that. But
they teased that. They teased Pro Okada versus JetSpeed as well, just all in the space of like maybe 30 seconds here. But like, man, you see like an Okada Místico here, and it's like at some point you kind of realize like you're watching like two of the biggest stars of like this entire generation, in their respective parts of the world, and it's kind of amazing that like these two companies like New Japan and CMLL have been working together, but they never like put this match together for whatever reason, whether it be political or maybe just like the worry that like one is not a big enough star in the other's country. But it's just like one of these moments where like you realize AEW has somehow provided the perfect platform where like these two could have this level of dream match with a crowd that might actually respect it as such.
And then yes, Ronda Rousey is a big story showing up. There was like a lot of stuff on the show. I don't know if there was a bigger news story than the fact that Místico has signed with AEW. And they did make it clear that he's, like others, going to have a dual contract with CMLL. So it's not the idea that they're just like totally swooping in and taking the biggest draw in the world at the moment. This guy had like 18 sellouts in January. But I think the question is going to be, what his like calendar is going to look like. This guy's 43 and his schedule, like it's amazing he has kept up the schedule he has, but he is the biggest star in Mexico. And this is certainly one where it's going to be interesting to see how prevalent he is in both companies and if he can maintain the schedule, what impact this will have on CMLL, if one at all. But it's like, this is kind of where the game is going. Like you're eventually, like if WWE wants you, you're not going to get any dates on these people. And if you're a partner with AEW, well, you'll get some dates on these people, but like AEW is going to be the priority.
I do wonder if like how much more Místico we'll see in AEW compared to like last year, like I don't necessarily sense like he's going to be on a Hechicero type of frequency and more of a like Mascara Dorado frequency, which is to say like few times a year, but
I think it's going to be more than a few, but I agree with you that I feel like he should be kind of positioned like for like, I don't think he should just be doing random trios matches on Collision, like 2-3 times a month. Like, I think you do want to maintain that specialty, that specialness for a Místico match, but they also might want to just whatever dates they'll get, they're going to put them on whenever possible.
Yeah, like to me, like these sort of announcements for guys like Místico, like I sense are just more these sort of like PR statements to be able to say, hey, we have exclusivity for him if you want to see him in North America versus maybe the competition. Or I should say America, and maybe Canada as well.
Andrade El Ídolo against Bandido was next. This is the first we saw of Don Callis all show as he comes out on commentary. And Bandido comes out, and he is wearing Super Dragon-inspired gear. And Bandido, so Andrade, this crowd is going nuts for this guy, like taking his clothes off. And then Bandido goes to take his pants off, and my God, did this man struggle taking these pants off. And then Andrade just drilled him here. And this is where...
I don't know if this was like improvised or if it was a planned spot, but either way, like worked out really well with Andrade kicking him while he was doing
I think it felt like Andrade just was like, I look ridiculous here waiting. I should capitalize on this. And because this guy was struggling with these bloody pants. So we get the ice chants here with the Don Callis chant. Andrade took multiple selfies during the match. We had a battle between the Three Amigos and Rolling Germans. Andrade hit this incredible Orihara moonsault off the buckle over the post to the floor. And then Bandido hits the fallaway moonsault. He goes for the X knee, and then the 21 plex gets cut off with a spinning elbow. And then Bandido lifts up Andrade and drops him off the shoulders and hits this like rolling heel kick that the commentators were just in awe of, that they had never seen something like that before. And it looked pretty good too. Like you could imagine that move looking terrible. Very cool. And then we see Andrade chest down on the mat, and Bandido does 21 plex without Andrade draped on the rope. He's just deadlifting him off the mat into the bridge. It looked awesome for this near fall. Hits an X knee and then tries another 21 plex with Andrade landing on his feet, spinning elbow. And then, of course, do your finisher, just do it off of a height. And we get the DM off the turnbuckle, okay? The excessive DM. And he wins in 21 minutes. And really great match. And what they got was these two felt like superstars to this crowd, because this crowd was amped for this match.
Totally. Yeah. I really thought both men were amazing here. And to me, like, this match felt like a definitive look at how renewed and fresh Andrade is during this run in AEW compared to the first. Like, in ring, I think he looks as amazing as ever, but on top of that, I think he's starting to show like a level of cocky charisma that we haven't seen from him possibly ever, at least in WWE or AEW. So the look with the trunks is great, you know, to me. Like, I think you know, he just feels fresh and feels like a top guy right now. Bandido, I think, continues to just provide these like show stealing performances, whether it be with like his incredible offense, like that moonsault slam, that new version of that GTS with the heel kick. But then that 21 plex from the belly down opponent might have like given me the biggest reaction all match, because it totally solves what I think is the biggest complaint about the 21 plex, and that's a bit of a convoluted setup requiring your opponent to bend over. Like, this just you could do to an opponent that's down in front of the ropes. But of course, it might require a little bit more athleticism from his opponent. So I do wonder if like this will be something he'll continue to use. But it to me felt like a breakthrough version of the 21 plex. So another great match on this very high quality show.
Second from the top, Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and Roderick Strong against Gabe Kidd, Clark Connors, and David Finlay. Tornado tag match. And Gabe Kidd comes down, and he's getting into Bryan Danielson's face. And Shivani reminds Danielson, don't forget who you are. And, okay, the first crazy spot of this match was Darby hops over the apron, or hops over the corner onto the apron, and Clark Connors comes out of nowhere, and the velocity of which this man speared Darby off the apron to the floor,
crazy.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Holy Christ. Kidd is choking out Darby. They hit a doomsday device. Roderick makes the save, and then they tie Darby's neck to the tag rope. So he is tied to the corner for like 5 minutes. They give us the story on David Finlay, who is estranged from his father because his father never won a world title. Has this ever kept you and your father at a distance way?
I can't say it has.
Strong uses Orange as a weapon. I think taking some notes from the World Tag League, and then the dogs are working together as a team. The crowd starts chanting, "Please help Darby." So Orange gets a pair of scissors and cuts him free. Darby immediately hits a coffin drop to everyone. And then in maybe my favorite moment of this match, Darby is up the stage and Gabe Kidd has the skateboard. And to make Darby scared, he starts whacking the stage with the skateboard, and he hits the stage and it comes like close to him. Then he hits it again, and this time he goes full Kurt Angle, and this skateboard bounces right into his head, and he's got to no-sell it, but he just bonked himself with this skateboard, howled. So then Darby stops Kidd, knocks him off the stage, and uses the skateboard to his back, zip-tying Gabe Kidd to the stage, where Gabe is stuck for the rest of the match. Finlay hits the overkill, Darby saves, and then an orange punch, end of heartache combo. Clark Connors takes the pin at 12 minutes and 25 seconds as Darby taunts Gabe Kidd on his way to the back. And that was our match here. 12 minutes, 25 seconds.
Like, this deep into the show, I thought like these guys were probably in maybe the worst spot on this card. but I like you could see the amount of effort that they all put into trying to make this one, like memorable or, and I, I thought like that first tope from Connors to Kid off the apron was an incredible way to like suck this crowd back in. And it just led to like a strong string of dominance from the dogs. For me, I feel like they might have been able to tighten up the portion with Strong and Orange in control, because like once you get the crowd chanting, "Please help Darby," I feel like you kind of lost the seriousness of the match a little bit there. But I also thought they set up Darby, the moment he was let free, like gave us this amazing coffin drop that just again brought the intensity right back into the match. And then they set up that zip tie spot with Gabe Kidd relatively well by, having or giving Orange a reason to go to the toolbox, to grab that in the first place. So it was one of those matches that I don't think the show would have suffered from if it did not take place. And it was instead saved on Dynamite. And the reaction here from a crowd that I think was ready for the main event by this point kind of showed that. But of course, it doesn't discount from the effort of the participants who, I mean, really felt like they were putting everything into it. Did you like the booking? Did you, the dogs losing on their first pay-per-view match?
I don't think it was like a killer for them to lose this match. I mean, I would have maybe had these guys stay, undefeated for a little bit longer to kind of still establish their footing here. But I think at the end of it, it was, I think they wanted to give a win here to your baby faces as they continue this. But I thought they came through in the spot that they were in. It's a tough spot to be in on these shows overall, but I really do like what they've got here with Kidd, Connors, and Finlay together. Like, I think the three of them are going to do very well in these roles. And with that, they have announced for Wednesday Darby and Gabe Kidd in a coffin match, as well as Timeless Toni Storm and Marina Shafir in a no-holds-barred match. That's happening in Fresno on Wednesday. And then we get the main event, and we get a video teeing up the main event, where they even mention that the only time MJF has beaten Hangman Page was the first time he got the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and it was with the help of Wardlow. I was like, oh my God, I hope they are not foretelling something here, but they were not.
Well, he is working with they're teasing the Don Callis family MJF interaction.
I know. When they brought this up with Wardlow, and then again during commentary, I was like, oh my God, if Wardlow costs Hangman this, I don't know how well that would be received. But then we get like a mariachi style entrance for Hangman Page that is only topped by.
It was trumpets. I'm not sure if this is mariachi, but yeah, like.
Well, I'm going out on a limb here then.
Yeah.
So then we go to this Western style video with MJF that I don't know who thought of this. MJF had to do this deep Texas drawl, and the punchline is he gets off his horse and pisses on Hangman's grave as he then makes his arrival in a poncho with his Terry Funk inspired tights. So yeah, quite the idea that they had.
They were putting a lot of effort into some of these entrances here, whether it be with special package videos in the case of, Paige having like a live musician attached to it. And I thought like they all made the show feel a lot more special. But this one, maybe tonally, like again, with MJF, you're always going to get an element of just like, I think, comedy to it all. It, to me, didn't necessarily feel the vibe that you wanted to set up with Texas Death that perfectly. Like I was hoping, like somebody was going to die in this match. Is the type of feeling I was looking for.
So here was my thought at the end of this, was that coming into this, they were stating how like MJF he has never gone through one of these Texas Death matches. He's at the beginning of this match, he's running away from Hangman. He's like, it's MJF. He's this cowardly heel at the end of the day. And the idea is by the end of this match, he has gone through this war, that this should be a character-changing event for this MJF character that I think you should see afterwards. Like, I think that was sort of the idea here by the end of it all. And if that's the case, then I didn't have as much issue, because I thought the same at the beginning, where it was almost like he was playing this for comedy, but you see that evolve as the match gets like into the deeper water and as the violence escalates, that he has to get to that level to hang with Hangman. Pardon the pun. So we start off the match. It's his birthday, by the way. MJF is 30 today. So he gets a birthday card stapled to his chest by Paige. We will go through as much as we can here, but there is a window introduced by Hangman. MJF gets control of the window and breaks the glass all over the mat. And Max says to the camera, "You won't catch me doing that indie bullshit." Well, there was plenty of indie bullshit to come because Paige scoop slams him onto the glass, drags MJF's back, and then gets barbed wire, cutting open MJF's forehead and pulls the barbed wire through the man's mouth. MJF would eventually get a...
This was insane. Like, this was, like, he was, you know, like, trying to steer him like there were reins on a horse using barbed wire. And it provided this, like, incredible visual of, like, MJF's, like, he's got barbed wire pulled through his mouth. His face is full of, like, fresh blood, and his eyes are wide open, and the blood is flowing into his eyes. It was, like, oh, it was incredible, like, horror movie stuff.
This was, like, 12 minutes in, by the way.
Yeah.
So MJF eventually gets a shard of the glass and just slices up Hangman's forehead and starts stabbing him. So both men are doing color at this point. And MJF gets a broom and he sweeps the glass out of the ring. And then Paige breaks the broom and uses the jagged edge. MJF at this point gets the advantage and he goes underneath the ring and he pulls out returning hypodermic needle.
Mm-hmm.
It's been on the shelf for over 2 years, and it was time to bring this one back. And he takes this needle and sticks it through the cheek of Hangman Page, where you see the needle go right through, pierces the skin, goes right through. And if that wasn't enough, he squirts the liquid in the needle just so you can see this. There's water firing off for your big visual here.
Yeah. This is what I feel like they were hoping for the first time they did it, like Paige actually getting it through Swerve's cheek. They've perfected this spot by this point. They've improved upon it, and you had the squirting through the needle pierced through
they went back
cheek
to the lab. They workshopped this.
Yeah.
And it was ready for prime time yet again. Bryan Danielson just says, "Guys, I can't watch this." And he follows that by, "I see a girl crying in the front row." And then later, he just sounds so defeated as he says, "I think we need a moratorium on these types of matches." Like, it just felt like Danielson is not a guy who has, he is not a guy that holds his cards close to the vest. Like, he really does come through in these matches. If this was him just trying to get over the severity of this match, he did a great job.
Exactly what you would want to say if you're trying to sell this match. Right?
Yeah, I mean, like Shivani, though, on the other hand, was like, this is
great.
incredible. We're never going to forget about this night ever. This is amazing. This guy's just
a sadist.
What more can they do? So it continues as a barbed wire chair brought in. We get a dead eye off the apron through a table. Then they go to the opposite side, and now MJF puts him through with a tombstone through a table. Then they bring out the light tubes, and these fucking light tubes, dude, they go to the top of the stage, and MJF takes one across the back, and it just creates this big cut across his back in a straight line. And then Hangman takes the other light tube and breaks it over his head. But instead of the usual, like, just smash of the light tube, it's this thud as it breaks. And it was the thud that just sounded horrific on top of it here. So MJF is half dead. They fight by the edge of the stage, teasing falling off it, but that would only be a tease for later, because then we go back to the ring and the skewers are brought out. They tried to lodge the skewers in MJF's head. They tried their best here. These things were you hate skewers.
They were pretty successful, I would say.
They were there enough. I think they wanted.
Oh my God.
They wanted the Braden Harrington special. Like they wanted those things lodged.
Well, out of the bunch, what percentage of skewers do you think would be an acceptable amount to fulfill the spot?
I just mean that they fell out right away, but they got what they needed here.
They got these pictures, which are incredible.
You're right. Yeah. As long as they got one photo here, then it was a win. Hits the buckshot lariat, but MJF gets up at 9. And this is kind of the change of the tide in the match, where it's like, this is the, like, MJF gutting his way to get up after taking all of this from Hangman Page. And
yeah, I almost felt like to me this almost telegraphed the finish because it was like so one-sided, the beating now at this point.
I think a lot like this getting up at 9. I think a lot of people figured like MJF is going over here in this match, unless you're doing some crazy booking idea here, because the way this was laid out was like, no, this match, the finish is about Hangman, but the match is about MJF and his like falling into like this deeper, violent, environment. So he gets up, and so Page gets out a double dog collar. I thought this was a really nice touch. Of course, the man who cannot be named, cannot be cited. Instead, we refer to the ghosts of Revolution Past as he ties up the dog collar to MJF, and MJF freaks out. He's yelling, "Not again, not again." And the crowd is chanting for fire. And Page is like, that's the one thing we're not doing in this match. So he's like, "Who's got a lighter? Who's got a lighter?" He was yelling.
He was more than willing to go there, and it tells you, like, I mean, there must be a level of just improvisation. Like,
I don't think you're not improvising fire off.
Well, why would he say it? Why would he say who's got a lighter?
Because I think the answer was I think he was just trying to get the crowd onto the next thing.
I wouldn't have said it at all.
It ended the chant, and then the chant came back like a couple minutes later, and he went right back to the chant. Dude, you're not improvising.
I don't think it ended
fire
the match. I don't think it ended the match. Oh, sorry. I don't think it ended. Well, I don't think it certainly didn't end the chance because they kept coming.
Well, you weren't giving them fire, so it was something.
Well, I don't understand why he would ask then, because I firmly believe that he was willing to at least tease it, right? Because I don't know why he would ask otherwise. And
what would he do with a lighter? You got no lighter fluid here. You got like.
How do you know they don't have lighter fluid down there?
Why would they, dude? They're not doing a fire spot.
Again, I can't say that definitively. I just don't know why
they
Page
didn't do a fire spot. There was no plan for fire here.
Okay, fine. But is it not possible that he could have entertained the idea, at least through a tease or something?
I'm just working this out. If someone gave him a Zippo, what's he going to do with this?
Fucking grab the lighter fluid from under the ring and then tease the fire, or at least tease doing it.
But you're assuming there's lighter fluid under the ring.
Well, why would you assume that there wouldn't be?
Because there's no purpose to have lighter fluid if you're not using it for a fire spot.
Fine, but so. I guess I just don't know why Page would even say it rather than just ignore it.
Well, they did move on because they did have other things to get to, mainly this dog collar. So he walks MJF to the ring with the dog collar, so they all chant, "He's a good boy," at him. And we get the buckshot attempt, but it stopped with a low blow. He hits a belt shot to Hangman, and Page is down. And Danielson thinks, man, that he hit him flush. I don't think he can do it. And he gets to 9. Hangman just pops right up. This was the equivalent of the 1 count kick out. But he just pops up. He was playing possum, kicks Hangman low, or kicks MJF low. But MJF comes back, hits him with the dynamite diamond ring, and knocks Page over the rope and hangs the Hangman and puts him out cold on the floor. And the count of 10 is made. And when that 10 is made, this crowd gasps. And the announcers are just shaken by the fact that Hangman has lost the match and he's out. It's a clean win for MJF. And then as Page is placed on the gurney, MJF stands on top of him, posing as... Oh, and by the way, when after the hanging, Page's blood gets smeared on the camera, and this was clearly not planned for, but what an awesome shot here that for this whole final scene, you're watching it literally through Hangman's blood.
It made the finish.
Like
this blood.
Only a sick wrestling fan could find poetry in this, but it was. I mean, I thought this was such a nice touch that they didn't make the... Like, they could have just said, hey, clean that off. I'm so glad they left it. I thought this was such a cool visual of you're literally watching this through Hangman's blood as MJF has prevailed.
I thought it resulted in one of like the best visuals we've seen out of AEW programming. And of course, like, it requires a wrestling trained production crew and director to recognize the value of the gold in this sort of like fortune of having like the finish result in a blood stain directly on the center of the lens. So credit to the entire team involved in emphasizing all of this. This match, so we'll talk about the finish. But
by the way, 46 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah. This was a match that really had, like, I think the unenviable task of not just like closing this show, but to top all of Hangman's previous Texas death matches and also MJF's dog collar match. So they put it felt like they put every gimmick that they could think of into this match. And in terms of expectation, in terms of like value delivery for a pay-per-view main event, I mean, it completely delivered, and I would even say over-delivered. What you expect out of a sort of like Texas death match is, to me, like at this point in AEW, like sort of like lore, I look at these like the equivalent of like a great horror film, in that like they should provide incredible visuals, and they more than delivered that. I mean, look no further than like just even 12 minutes into the match and this gruesome scene of, you know, MJF like eyes wide open with blood dripping into his eyes as he's got a barbed wire, you know, a piece of barbed wire pulled through his mouth. I think the syringe spot was insane. The skewers were insane, and of course that incredible closing visual with the blood stain, you know. So all of this more than delivered, and I think we have to completely commend the incredible effort and creativity of the performers involved. But I will say, I thought this match was a bit overstuffed. I don't think they needed as much as they did put in there, because there was a point where it kind of felt like the intensity of the match might have been taken away by the amount that they were trying to do. And you're also combating, you know, a crowd at this point that was already kind of tired, by extending the length of it, by going to the ramp and then coming back and doing, I think, a lot of things that ultimately...
we skimmed over. I missed the spot. They did the spot coming off the stage with the explosions. I don't think I've ever enjoyed that spot in wrestling. The pyro assisted fall off the stage that is done a lot. I don't have that many different opinions of it than you. I don't think that this one reached the intensity of Swerve and Hangman. It was such a different dynamic from Moxley and Hangman. Like, that was the big accomplishment. You were doing the polar opposite finish of this. The finish is going to be graded on what Tony's booking of this is, because you did this once with Cody and it turned out to be a big negative. So Tony Khan has had all these years to redo this one, and like, we will look back and see like where this one ends up going with Hangman Page. I mean, you either have to violate a stipulation or you have booked one of your top acts out of the main event picture, which, I mean, the booking will outline. Like, maybe he has, since the Cody thing, he's got this grand idea for it. But like, that is what this is going to be judged on with the stipulation.
Yeah, and what could those grand ideas entail, other than like Page going back on his word, which I feel is possible. Like, by the end of Cody's thing, like, we were all demanding that he just like ignore it, but I think it would be very unsatisfying, right? Creatively. So what do you think? Like, what about, like, could he go for a separate, let's say if they, you know, like, entertain the idea of a brand split, maybe like try to prop up another championship to be your A level. Would that constitute not going for, like, fitting into all of this?
I actually, like, I dislike that idea, because it almost then paints that title as, you can't go for the big title, so this is literally the number 2 title, and we're telling you it is. Like, yeah, you could have him, like, you know, Swerve wins the title, and then Hangman does the most despicable thing by going back on his word to take the title from his rival. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I think, like, Hangman is this great character that is one I don't know if I would want to go that direction with. So I hope he has, like, a great idea for it. Like, I think that was the intriguing part of this main event, because it was not time for MJF to lose. MJF, by the way, both men were excellent in this match. It was just a lot that they crammed into this one, that it felt like, until the 10 was rendered, it was like the gravity of the stipulation didn't really dawn on people till the end. And throughout the match, it was just like escalating what's going to be the next violent thing we see, and not so much this, like, we're all like rooting for Hangman to pull this one off. It didn't have that same type of feel to it.
Agreed. And again, going back to what we were saying earlier, I mean, these shows are being sold on the idea of excess, right? Like you're going to get more than your money's worth, and you want the feeling of like being over full, and that you were getting more than what you paid for the show. They completely honored that, and they completely delivered that. But I will say, like, there was an intensity to, I think, like maybe the better examples of Texas Death that I feel were kind of lost here because, you know, these audiences were reacting to the spots, but then they would quiet down as they would just anticipate the next one. And it just felt like more of a succession of like big, gruesome spots rather than, I think, like what you were watching here. And that's Paige's final attempt at winning a championship.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing is going to be like how well this pay-per-view performs. Like, I think the Stip was a big hook. And I think that these two headlining, like I think this pay-per-view will do well. But they were going up against the Oscars tonight. There was like a big World Baseball Classic game going on. But all that said, like I think like this show, I think that overall, like certainly from a ticket perspective, like this show really did connect in the LA market. We will see how well it does on pay-per-view. But yeah, you came out of this show. I thought there were several really excellent matches. I still go with the Bucks and FTR. I thought that was, I really felt like that was one of the best matches of the year. And if it holds up, Takeshita and Moxley, though, I can see a lot of people going that way. And I could see a lot of people just loving that main event if that's, like, it was like, I don't imagine anyone that was buying this show for a Texas Deathmatch felt that this came short of expectations or what was advertised in terms of violence. Like, that's what you were buying, and that's what they delivered to you. And this, to me, was not a, like, you can quibble with differences between other Texas death matches, but this one gave you like something of that echelon that is a very high standard in AEW.
Yeah. And that is like maybe one of the sort of qualifiers we should mention. Like, if this was the first Texas death match we've seen in AEW, I think we'd react very differently. But these are designed to one up and improve and be compared to previous iterations. And for that reason, we said all we said. So I do think, like, for me, I would go with Takeshita Mox as my favorite match of the show. I think a lot of people are showing love to Andrade Bandido as well. That was really tremendous. Mm-hmm. But if I had to say, like, watch one match, I think the most important match is obviously the main event here, which it was an incredible spectacle. And I mean, you know, felt very relevant, obviously, to your main character of the show in Hangman Page.
If you were to guess right now, we're 4 weeks out from the next pay-per-view. Could you see MJF and Andrade being the main event for that show? Like, the teases have been there that they have been doing. And if not, do you see anyone else for that main event spot with MJF?
Yeah, who else is out there? What are the other top names that are kind of swirling around?
Well, I mean, Swerve and Omega seem tied together. Like, that would rule them out. Like, obviously, a Hangman rematch should not be an option. And like, I would say at this point, like, MJF would, like, Andrade would be one of those, like, leading contenders, I would say at this point, unless, like, someone comes out of left field that you're not thinking about. I'm not crazy about going to another multi-man, and I don't even know who those multi people would be at this time.
Yeah. That sounds like a worthy main event, or at least title match. I don't know if it would headline, but yes.
On a show that also has, like, Copeland and Cage going for the tag titles, Omega and Swerve. Anyway, those are our thoughts. Momentarily, we are going to get to your super chats and feedback, but we want to alert everybody, if you are so kind, to hit the subscribe button here on the Post Wrestling YouTube channel. We go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday after Raw, after Dynamite, and after SmackDown. If you want to be a Post Wrestling Cafe subscriber at postwrestlingcafe.com, you get multiple bonus shows each week and the XL versions of our Rewind shows going through the news of the day on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, as well as taking your feedback and questions at the end of each show. This coming month, we're going to be continuing with Rewind Away, and this week we are chatting AWA Super Sunday from 1983, where Nick Bockwinkel and Hulk Hogan, they did color, they did barbed wire. There was a hypodermic needle that Nick Bockwinkel stuck into Terry Bollea's cheek, and we're going to talk about all of that. And then Vern Gagne, doing excessive color and kicking out at 1.
And then Big Boom AJ showed up. It was really strange.
It was wild. So that's coming up this Thursday. Also this week, we will have a review from Karen Peterson and Bruce Lord for the New Japan Cup Finals. And later this month, a book club covering Beyond Nitro by Guy Evans. That can all be found postwrestlingcafe.com.
All right. Shall we go to feedback where all of our patrons at Post Wrestling Cafe on Patreon can tell us what they thought about Revolution? Oh, first of all, let's go to super chats first. Thank you to all of you guys that might be watching us live here. As late as this may be on a Monday morning, almost 400 of you watching us live on YouTube, which are tremendous numbers. Please, all of you guys, subscribe if you haven't yet. But thank you especially to our super chatters, including JM9171, who sends $20. Thank you very much, JM. He says he or she says very fun show, but I really hope the extreme crowd close-ups are not going to be a staple going forward. Is Kevin Dunn all elite?
I mean, the funny part was like these close-ups, they were clearly being shown on the big screen because all these people were recognizing they were on camera. And that to me was the awkward part. I didn't care about the extreme close-up, but it was them like, it was like 2 seconds and then they realized like they're on the screen and reacting and it just felt weird.
I definitely think they overused them. Like yes. On occasion, I thought they were like very effective in conveying the severity or just like reaction to the situation, but they kept going back to them, which I think like more often than not provided lightheartedness at moments of a match that you didn't want that, and at worst a distraction from the actual action that was taking place. So I definitely think they fell in love too much with it, but this crew and this director more than saved themselves with the way they handled the blood stain at the end.
How about the low angle shot by the table with barbed wire when Hangman got yanked off by the dog collar and you're watching it from like the perspective of the barbed wire? I was like, there was some ambitious directing on this show, especially. Yes. Or as a dog, yes, you could also be a dog.
We then go next to Jake from the Windy City, who has been a YouTube member for 38 months. YouTube members who subscribe and get our shows on that platform can also get super chats once a month, I believe. He says, I wonder how Ronda would fit in with an AEW style in the ring, considering she did more rehearsing in WWE, and she shouldn't be a weekly character. ATP?
At this point.
Okay. Thank you.
I wouldn't expect Ronda would be coming in for a whole ton of matches. I think you're building to a few key ones, and I would imagine like that you would count on one hand with fingers left over. Like there's less is more with Ronda, and to me it would be getting the maximum out of her for a big match with Toni, and then maybe a tag match with Marina in there as well.
Agreed. If Ronda Rousey is going to be attached to AEW, I would have Jon Moxley attached to her at the hip, not necessarily in front of the scenes, but behind the scenes, because the way he's been able to coach Marina Shafir and improve what she's been doing has been remarkable. I would like he would know how to present Ronda Rousey in her best, most vicious light. So I think there would be a lot of potential for like a retelling of the Ronda Rousey character, in my opinion, in pro wrestling.
It's weird. It's like 2026. Like she is trying to like redo her image in both MMA and pro wrestling.
Lastly, let's go to Slim Sieber with the super chat for $10. Thank you very much, Slim Sieber, who says, with it being on Netflix, do you think WWE will be asked to promote the Ronda Gina fight on Raw, considering it's a promotion outside of TKO and now features a talent involved in AEW?
WWE didn't promote the Vince McMahon documentary series, so I don't think they're going to be promoting the Ronda Gina fight.
No, they have promoted other like Netflix things, right? Of course they have. Like, have they promoted other Netflix combat sports? To your recollection?
I mean, they didn't even really promote like the Jake Paul fights, like maybe like in mention, but not specific promotion of it. So no, right. I don't imagine you will see that on the show. All right, let's go to Robbie. He says, first off, AEW put on another great show. At this point, it almost feels as common as the sun rising. I wanted to mention that I tried watching my AEW with a VPN and it worked perfectly. I had no issues at all streaming the pay-per-view, which was a pleasant surprise and made the whole experience smooth. One odd little highlight for me was the matching Varsity Club-style Don Callis family jackets. I love small touches like that. Little presentation details and visual quirks like that always stick out to me. I just want to say I really appreciate all the hours of entertainment. Well, thank you very much. He says, I might be on an island here, but I love the House of Torture, and I really miss seeing Evil in New Japan. Well, that's
What is he showing up? When is he showing up? By the way?
maybe he's secretly crafting, maybe he's secretly designing a second lantern before he shows up somewhere. Then we're really
We can all have lanterns, guys. Don't worry. What are you fighting over?
Yeah. All the House of Torture are now out of the New Japan Cup, unfortunately.
Oh boy. Oh, okay. So am I then. Let's go to Dave, who says, that was one of the most batshit insane hardcore matches I've ever seen, and I mean that in the most positive way imaginable. The callbacks to both men's most intense matches with the needle, dog collar, and chain choking were done perfectly. Hangman's blood smeared on the camera lens was the perfect happy accident to end an incredible match. The only major downer / head scratcher is the Ronda Rousey involvement. She has a fight to prepare on Netflix, and her wrestling ability is definitely not up to AEW standards. Not sure where they go from here. I assume she'll be involved somehow in the Toni Marina rematch on Dynamite. 9.9 out of 10 show from me, and happy belated birthday to the both of you. I'm assuming the point one is for Ronda Rousey's involvement. But
yeah, listen, there's a lot of people down on this, and they're just not fans of Ronda Rousey. But I think that it's like they're not bringing in Ronda Rousey to fulfill like the great wrestling quotient. I mean, they are bringing her in to be a big star, to do a big match, and you have a 80,000 seat building to fill in August. And if you have access to a Ronda Rousey like that, you will get your great wrestling on whatever show she is on. And I also would not underestimate like how well they will be able to put, like, again, Ronda's big thing was like nobody was complaining about her first match where she got all that prep time. You don't think they're going to have a really crafted out match with her and Toni Storm, and they've got months to prepare for that match? This is not the case. Like, I agree. If she was coming in as a weekly character, like we saw in her last run, like that got old fast, and that's not the value of Ronda Rousey. And I don't think that's something Ronda would be interested in either. But I really had no issue with the angle tonight, and a match with Toni Storm. Like, that is for Toni Storm. Like, that is, I mean, it's like
Toni should gain more from facing Ronda Rousey, and you would assume beating Ronda Rousey ultimately than she would facing any other person. Like, maybe say even more than Mercedes, because they've already done that match. To me, it feels big. Whether or not the wrestling audience and the AEW audience will react to it just the same, maybe that remains to be seen. Your turn, mine.
Let's go to Andy. Andrade Bandido was my favorite match of the night. Great story of Bandido being able to hang with the lucha legend he adored. The Super Dragon gear was a nice touch. Andrade is in incredible form. His showmanship is off the charts. FTR and Young Bucks also delivered an excellent match. Closing stretch had me hooked throughout. Felt like an NXT TakeOver main event. Hard to miss when you get a match with high stakes where neither guy can afford to lose. Thought Hangman and MJF delivered, with the exception of a couple of gripes. Hangman putting the collar on himself to set up the finish was a contrived way to set up a great visual and callback for the finish. I also really liked the sequence where he literally dog-walked MJF. The use of the belt as a metaphor was also ham-fisted. A little bit of Chekhov's gun with Hangman asking for the lighter. Don't introduce something to the story if you're not going to use it later. I mean, in fairness, no one gave him a lighter, so... maybe the Texas Deathmatch stip was a hat on a hat, considering they already had a stipulation.
What?
I don't know. It's your turn.
What is a hat on a hat?
It's something is already serving its purpose. You don't need a second one.
So, okay, you mean like because he had?
I thought
the
in a roundabout way. Yes.
Got it.
I thought the whole, like, again, I think a lot of this was a story for like the progression of MJF that you're going to see come out of this. Like, this is like, if this was MJF version 2.0, this is like the 3.0 of MJF now coming out of this match, where he's now this, you have added this edge, he has come out of, he's beaten the Texas Deathmatch King.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think we'll still get a similar MJF, because you can't really have an MJF without that sort of comedy, at least like him making fun of opponents. Whether or not that like will result in a different in-ring style, or at least like demeanor. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing. Let's go to Brian, who says terrific pay-per-view overall. I found the main event plotting at first, and they just got out the one big weapon after another, and I still hate the use of the syringe, but then I thought they stepped it up considerably with the use of the dog collar.
A few callbacks to past Revolution pay-per-views with those, the broken glass from Sting's retirement, and an explosion, albeit a successful one. Strong finish, and the announcers got me interested in what this means for Page's future. A lot of great matches throughout the card, but Moxley Takeshita was my personal favorite. I thought the trios title match was fantastic, leading into that moment for Místico afterward. The returns of Cage and Copeland and Ospreay were great to see, but I'm glad Ospreay didn't hurt himself with that dive. Ronda Rousey's appearance definitely surprised me. I take it she's a new Death Rider affiliate, but unlike Gabe Kidd, I don't want her sticking around as long outside of the eventual match with Storm.
Sal from California. I'm leaving the Staples Center here in LA and buzzing after another great AEW pay-per-view. I've been to the last 4 Revolutions in San Francisco, Greensboro, and 2 in LA, and they're always so much fun. Some thoughts. The Super Dragon mask from Bandido made my PWG-loving heart happy. I booed Ronda Rousey loudly here at Survivor Series 2018, and I had fun booing her again in the same building today. No Brody King merchandise for sale today, which was weird. He's my favorite wrestler at the moment. It's weird being in America right now, but chanting "fuck ice" with several thousand sickos is cathartic. I was questioning some of my life choices after seeing Hangman get a needle in the mouth in person. Gross. All in all, another amazing AEW show. Well, no better way than to watch a man injected with a needle than with friends.
You can say you've done that now.
Yes.
Check that off the bucket list.
Let's go to Cody from Maine, who says, certainly an eventful show. One would imagine the encounter between Ronda and Toni would be further down the road to not jeopardize Ronda's Netflix fight. Yeah. Fight. I would agree. We'll see if the juice is worth the squeeze, as I saw a lot of negative sentiment towards her appearance tonight. The slow burn with Takeshita continues. Not sure if it's the right or wrong move to keep the title on Mox, especially if he's going to be positioned to pay for his heelish ways from last year. But between that, the setup for Swerve Kenny and the return of CNC, there was a lot set in motion tonight, including the Hangman defeat, which I can't imagine doesn't lead to an eventual heel turn to break the stip, or perhaps another Moxley-like hostage situation with the title that requires Page to save the day. There will be pushback regardless.
All right, next one here. The main event was epic, but am I the only one who felt Hangman's intensity against MJF was a bit over the top? The feud wasn't that personal, but Hangman was straight up trying to butcher MJF. I mean, this was the whole buildup of this match was this hatred of these two going back right to the beginning of AEW. I think it certainly justified it. Seemed like even the announcers kind of called it out. The crowd looked horrified in some of the close-ups, and there was even that loud dueling chant in the middle.
When you call for Texas Death, you're not really going to be gentle, or at least like kind, or not killer with your opponent. So I don't know. I felt they were plenty justified. Let's go lastly here to Bookworm, who says, I love the main event personally. I wonder if there's a way to keep Hangman involved in the title without ever being able to win it, as like an explicit gatekeeper for the belt. If you think
is that really that, like, what does that serve?
If you think you deserve to challenge for it, beat me first kind of vibe. Also, do you feel like MJF was mimicking some of Page's extreme spots as a sort of, why can he do this and still be the guy while I am still the villain?
Yeah, I mean, he did it with the needle, he did it with the hanging, like that was all, that was brought up multiple times. Yeah. But yes, the gatekeeper, Hangman Page. That sounds like an awesome gimmick.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, everyone. Well, thank you for staying up late with us, or early, depending on where you are. It is 2:30 in the morning here, so we are going to shut this one down. But if you enjoyed this show, Wai and I are going to be back on Monday night following Raw. We will be live at 10:35 p.m. Eastern Time at postwrestlingcafe.com, and then the show review portion will be popping up here on the YouTube channel for everyone. But join the cafe. You get the news of the day, feedback, questions, and so much more as a cafe subscriber. So thank you all, and that concludes our review of AEW Revolution.